Hi, I'm Mark Lewinter, licensed acupuncturist at Metro Acupuncture in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, I talk with Wendy Yu and Brandon Horn of the Lotus Center for Integrative Medicine. We discuss their DVD, Restoring Fertility. It's a yoga DVD that can help optimize fertility. It's an excellent DVD. I think you'll find this interview very interesting. Thanks for watching. Brandon and Wendy, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with me a little bit about your experience with working with patients who've been diagnosed with infertility and added in yoga. For many years, I've had patients incorporate yoga into their acupuncture treatments and infertility treatments. And when I became introduced to your Restoring Fertility DVD, I think it was really a game changer for them because of the complexity and sophistication of the DVD. So I wanted to reach out to you and hear a little bit more about your experience in working with patients who are adding in yoga to their acupuncture and infertility treatments. And I look forward to our conversation today.
Likewise, thanks for having us.
So the first thing I was curious is, why did you decide to add in acupuncture and yoga together to infertility treatments?
Initially, we just had several patients who were yoga practitioners that happened to be yoga practitioners, and so I had given them exercises. We used to give qigong exercises and these kind of things, but then we started giving them some yoga poses to do, and when they did them, we noticed that things would progress much quicker. So as you know, when you're working with acupuncture, you figure out, okay, here are the channels that are having problems in terms of infertility, and then, you start targeting that with acupuncture. But if you give them more things to do at home, then they can really start to progress much quicker. So it's almost like having acupuncture treatments every day instead of having them, once a week or twice a week, something like that. So then what happened is after we started doing this with a lot of people, we started seeing patterns of the types of poses and things like that that would essentially accelerate the results from a person's problem. So let's say, for example, somebody had a luteal phase defect, something like that. Then we would notice, oh, gee, most of the people with luteal phase defects, they have problems in these 3 channels or whatever. And then we would be targeting the yoga poses. Most of the poses that we'd end up giving them were among 3 or so poses. So what we ended up doing after a while is we just compiled all of these into a kind of routine. And then we started giving them to people. And so really it ended up being, in some ways, a kind of a trial and error. And that's how we ended up adding in a lot of the acupuncture points that you see in a lot of the modifications of the yoga poses, because when we did them with the original poses, they didn't work. They didn't get the results. So as we kept tweaking and modifying them, then eventually we came up with, oh, okay, here's how we're supporting the luteal phase with it. Here's how we're supporting the follicular phase. Here's how we're supporting ovulation. And during the menstrual, as you know, that's one of the most important times also in treating people. But if you do exercises in the wrong way during the menstrual phase, then you can really screw things up. I mean, you can end up refluxing the blood back. You can end up potentially causing blockages in the fallopian tubes, endometriosis, or in the abdominal cavity, or these kind of things. So it ended up being something that was not only very helpful in terms of just as an individual, but as they went and did the entire sets, it ended up being very helpful overall. And then when we finally, put them together into the routines, and then, ended up, creating the DVD, then we just got tons and tons of people who were, email us and, and tell us how, great the results were that they were getting. And, like you said, you can read them on, Amazon. There's like, I think 100 reviews or something like that up there. A lot of people getting pregnant and so forth after that.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing that I liked quite a bit, is that you're doing different postures based on where you are in the cycle. So there's like 4 different routines.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to add to what Brandon was saying, a lot of our patients, and I'm sure it's the same in Georgia, there are a lot of people who are extremely stressed out and might not have a whole lot of time, and might not have time to exercise either. So we just thought, we try to keep the routines to about 30, 35, 40 minutes so that it's approachable, for most people. They can at least have some sort of relaxation time, because there's always a shavasana in all of in each series, and some physical activity to go along with it. And then, hey, if it's helping with my menstrual cycle too, then great.
A lot of my patients, when I suggest yoga for enhancing fertility, they're very interested, but they've never done yoga before. What would you say to that patient who is wanting to try adding in yoga, but has no experience with it?
Well, the good thing about the sets that we have is we have 3 levels of, I guess, a difficulty. You have one person in each yoga set that might not have as much flexibility as others, and then it goes up to the people who do have more flexibility and more experience with yoga. So we've tried to make it approachable for everyone, regardless of the level of experience.
That's great. That's great. Now, the Restoring Fertility DVD is focused more on patients who are using timed intercourse or IUI. Is that correct?
Well, you want to take that, or you want to?
Well, I was going to say that, I mean, it is specifically targeted to people who are trying to conceive, but we have a lot of patients who have just plain old dysmenorrhea, or they have irregularity with their menstrual cycles, and they found that doing the fertility yoga helps to get them on track. So it's beyond the fertility aspect.
Or PMS, for example.
Right,
but I think
right.
I think what you were trying. I mean, if I understood what you were trying to get at is, can you use these not only with a natural cycle, but also with with ART, with using IUIs, with using these kind of things? And the answer is yes, you definitely can. But it takes a little bit more. So, for example, it would be better if you were under somebody's care in deciding how to do that. So, if you take an IUI, for example, that's something that you can pretty much follow along with what's going on. But if you're looking at IVF, you have some issues, because let's say, for example, in your follicular phase, in the stimulation, you may produce. I've had patients who've had 50 follicles growing at the same time. There's like 50 on each side. It was a total of 100. It's a massive amount of follicles to be growing, and if you're doing these yoga sets, when you have that kind of a follicular growth response going on, you could potentially cause problems, because some of these, there are physical obstructive issues when you have ovaries that end up being that size. So it's one of those things. If you have just a few follicles growing on each side, then yes, you could do the follicular phase yoga. It should be very helpful. So it's something where you'd want to work with somebody who knows what's going on with your cycle. Of course, you do with your patients, but I'm just saying in general for people.
Yes, for the safety. I like what you were saying, Wendy, in terms of if someone's not actively wanting to get pregnant, but they're doing the yoga and they're seeing that their periods are less painful or more regular. This is just evidence that the yoga is helpful. And absolutely, Brandon, knowing that patients can have this tool if they're doing IVF is also valuable. What do you suggest to patients when they do get pregnant? How do they move forward if they found the yoga to be very helpful? What are the next steps once they are pregnant?
Well, we're working on that. That's our next project. But there have been some sort of disturbing studies that are showing increases in miscarriages when people are doing exercises up to about week 17, 18. So our general recommendations are not to really do much exercise in terms of unless you really know what you're doing, or you're doing something that's relatively easy for you at the beginning of pregnancy. And then after that, it doesn't seem to make as much of a difference per se in terms of miscarriages or in terms of pregnancy success. There are different opinions about how you should be doing things or not during pregnancy. We've put together specific sets. We've been working with these kinds of things for a while. And so we've come up with something that we think is very good and helpful. But the reality is there are a number of prenatal DVDs that you could use once you've hit sort of week 17. But prior to that, I wouldn't do that unless, if you tell of course, if you feel it's fine for your patients, that's great. But a lot of the people who don't have necessarily practitioners they're working with to be able to gauge this, then I would recommend that they really not do, that that much. It doesn't mean that you should sit there like a log. It just means don't go out and try to add a new exercise routine and try to get in shape while you're at the beginning of your pregnancy. It's not the time to sort of do that.
Excellent. That sounds like very safe advice. The yoga is something you suggest patients do daily for when they're wanting to improve their fertility?
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then, sometimes people might not necessarily have the time to do it daily. So sometimes I'll recommend that patients do it for like minimum 4 times a week. But then if they have specific problems during their menstrual cycle, then I'll have them do more, maybe twice a day even, for certain phases. So for example, if they have problems with ovulation, then I'll have them do ovulatory phase maybe twice a day.
Yeah. I mean, I actually have people do them every day. I'm a little more adamant with my patients in terms of I want them to do it every day. If they want one day off, okay. But that's I'm just like that. So, but she's getting results being more relaxed. Maybe I should be a little looser with that.
I think that it's nice that you designed this this series so that they are only 30 minutes and that someone can commit to a 30-minute block in their home to be able to care for themselves in this way. So that's great.
Yeah, because most yoga classes here in LA, a lot of them are like 90 minutes long. So it takes 20 minutes to drive there, 20 minutes to drive back. So it just ends up being such a big chunk of their time, and it ends up stressing them out more than if they didn't do it at all. So.
Yeah, well, plus the other aspect you have in a lot of yoga classes is that people are always trying to impress other people, and they end up doing things that injure themselves or that they shouldn't do. And one of the really interesting things that we saw, I mean, there are a number of interesting things about it, but one of the things that was kind of funny was that after we finished filming the DVD, so the beginning and intermediate level people both got pregnant within, like, I don't know, 4 months or something of finishing the filming. The advanced person did, but she wasn't really trying to necessarily get pregnant at the time. But it's just kind of showing you don't need to do the any level that's beyond where you are. You need to just do where you are. So if a beginning person is trying to do the advanced, it doesn't mean it's going to work better. It's actually going to work worse. Or if an advanced person is just going to say, I'm just going to do the beginning, then that's nice. So you need to do whichever level where you're at, and that's really going to produce the best results, not trying to be at another level.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think it's really, really helpful. I've even found in yoga classes that there is this weird competition that comes up, and we think that doing more is better. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Are there other things that patients have, questions that patients have brought back to you after watching and doing the DVD a few times that would be helpful for someone to know before they even start the yoga for fertility?
Well, one thing is some people don't necessarily take the time to watch the introduction that Brandon does, because I think that he provides a lot of really useful information that would be helpful to sort of set that intention when you're doing the actual sets. And then also, a lot of people don't necessarily watch the breathing instructions, and the breathing is very, very important to have the technique down as you're doing the sets.
Yeah, I agree. We did create an FAQ, so we actually have had quite a lot of questions, both from patients and from a lot of people emailing us. We have tons of people emailing us all the time about what if I have X, Y, Z, or ABC, and so we just created that FAQ. It's on restoringfertility.com. If you go there, you click on the whatever, you'll see there's an FAQ there. So that has a lot of them. But I mean, if you wanted to, I could just briefly, I guess, go through, what each of the phases does or something like that. If that's the kind of thing that you.
Oh yeah, I think that would be really helpful. Okay.
So then, I mean, basically we have, 4 distinct phases or strategies that the body's using. So if you're just taking a look at the menstrual cycle. So the first is preparing the womb and sort of cleaning the house, so to speak. So the garden doesn't really have, I guess you could call it, sort of a garden. It doesn't have a bunch of toxic materials in it. And so this is the purpose of the bleeding. So the body's expelling toxic things, and it's cleaning out the old lining so that you prepare a receptive environment. And then obviously, so you want to help the body during that time to expel things, right? And so you're getting rid of things, but then in the follicular phase, this is when the follicles are growing. And so the lining is growing and thickening, and then you need sort of to support certain hormones like estrogen or FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, thyroid hormones, and so forth. So this is sort of really a growing and building phase that we're looking at, which is the opposite of what just happened in the menstrual phase. So, of course, there's always this yin within yang and yang within yin. So, I mean, if you want to get technical about it, the follicles do start growing during the menstrual phase, but the primary function of the menstrual phase is going to be expelling the lining and resetting the hormone cycle. So we go along with expulsion, whereas the primary sort of function of the follicular phase is the opposite of expulsion again, which is sort of growing things. And then after that, we get into the kind of ovulatory phase. So in the ovulatory phase, which is not so much about growing anymore, but it's about moving things and breaking things down. So you have to break down the follicle, or you have to, lyse it or luteinize it, whatever term you want to use. And this again is the opposite of building, which is what you did in the follicular phase. So it goes from yin to yang to yin to yang, right? So you're expelling the menses, then you're building the follicles, then you're kind of expelling the egg, and then you're building the embryo, right? So this process exactly follows Chinese medicine predictive models that we have. And that's one of the reasons, for example, that the sets work the way they do, because they support the right things at the right time. So you'll notice in the sets that the follicular and ovulatory sets are more challenging in terms of the difficulty, whereas the luteal and the menstrual phases are easier. So this is also sort of the yang versus yin parts of the cycle. So again, it gets very complicated when you get into all the sort of nuances of the sets. But the good thing about them is that you really don't have to know all this stuff. You just basically have to do the sets. And then again, like we mentioned, there are 3 different levels to the sets, and we talked about that at the beginning, and the intermediate and the advanced. And those ways to do it, they're very effective, but you just need to do it where you are. So, and this, if you look at it and you say, okay, well, if you're a beginner and let's say you're trying to touch your toes, right? So if your knees are bent and you're trying to touch your toes and you're a beginner, then, you're going to feel the pull on the hamstrings, right? Even with your knees bent. But if you're advanced and you're trying to touch your toes, you're not going to feel the pull on the hamstrings, right? So you have to go much further to feel that pull. So both of those things are going to activate the bladder channel, which is in the back of the hamstring, say, which can also, run into the uterus and all this kind of thing. But you don't have, regardless of which way you do it, if you're a beginner, you'll be able to do it with your knees bent and it'll be effective. If you're advanced, you're going to have to go down further to get that stretch in that same location. So this kind of gives you a context for, why it is that you just want to do where it is you can do, and that's still going to be just as effective for you.
Yeah, thank you for that summary, and it's valuable to know how much thought has gone into it, and that the thought is there, and the participant, the patient, all they have to do is just follow the instructions, breathe and stretch and enjoy the postures. And many of my patients who have done the series have found that they really like it because it's empowering.
Right. Yeah, they don't even know the half of the Chinese medicine technicality that goes into it.
Yeah, we've had
activating the 8 extras and trying to figure out how to do that with yoga. It was fun formulating the poses.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We've had so many people ask us, oh, why don't you describe what every pose is doing? Can you do that? Can you have like workshops and do this and that? And we're like, well, I mean, yeah, we could, but it's so complicated. You have to know so much in terms of Chinese medicine that it's just impractical for us to, be able to do that. So, I mean, even we've tried, putting up like 1 or 2 poses so people can just get an idea of all of that, but they want,
And there's, I think that with the yoga and acupuncture, there's something beyond the knowing. It's the experience of it and the doing of it. So I encourage my patients to just go for it, and if it's something that they like and they find beneficial, they should do it as much as they can. And it sounds like that's been your experience too.
Oh yeah, and sometimes practitioners will also have patients do a little extra of certain poses or add in their own poses because they know that patient has a particular something that they're working on that they're stuck in. So that's also, something that we'll modify for some, sometimes say, hey, add this pose in during this particular time, or hey, hold this pose, much longer, do some a little extra at the end or something like that.
Well, I love it, and I think it's a fantastic tool to add to improving fertility. I'm so glad that you offer it. For those who aren't familiar with it, the DVD is Restoring Fertility, and you can find it on Amazon. It's $40. It is money well spent, and I wanted to thank Wendy and Brandon for spending part of their day talking with me about their DVD, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark.
So much.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.